I've seen people waste literally tens of thousands of dollars on this mistake, and I've been running a software development company for 3 years. I've helped a lot of people build software, and unfortunately I've also seen a lot of founders fail, and I'd rather that you don't make the same mistake as them, because it was very painful for them, and it's probably going to be painful for you too if you step into the same trap, and that is building without selling first. I've spoken a lot basically on kind of like, I've seen people make mistakes and I think you should do marketing first, but a lot of products don't have an adoption or a marketing problem. Fundamentally, a lot of products have a delusion problem, and what that means is like people build stuff that they think is useful but isn't actually useful. And so no matter how much marketing you do around that product, if it's not fundamentally useful to somebody, you don't have a marketing problem, and nor do you have a tech problem. I've also seen people try to solve this delusion problem by building more stuff onto their tech, right? Like, I've been hired to build some of these products. Unfortunately, I have seen firsthand founders ask me to build stuff, which I try to tell them like they need to go and validate first, but unfortunately, that doesn't really work. And this is one of the reasons that we're working with increasingly kind of larger clients, because we want to work on real business cases, not on business cases that people think exist but don't actually exist. This is not to discourage people from trying to build stuff, but it's to go and actually validate their idea before they do build. And what I mean by that is, I run a development company. Companies hire me to build stuff. I've had founders hire me to build stuff, but sometimes those founders, they haven't validated, they haven't gotten, investment, they haven't gotten a wait list, they haven't done any of those things that they need to be doing, and they're just going and building a tool. Some of them have raised investment, a bit of investment from like family and friends, or they've got some kind of connection or whatever, and they've raised some small round of maybe 50, 100K, like they've gathered some small checks off an idea, which nowadays it is possible depending on the market that you're in, but some people are able to do that, but then they're hiring people to build this product that they haven't gone out and validated with actual users, whether they'd get on a wait list, whether they'd pay for it and things like that. And so push comes to shove and they've got something that's useless. There was one client, unfortunately, which is no longer around, like their company went bust because they didn't have funding and they had co-founder breakup issues, and they were building something that wasn't really useful. They were building when blockchain was really popular, and they got a check from a VC. They hired us to help build their front end. They were building the back end, and they had this idea, and it was all these things. But fundamentally, like, the app that they built wasn't actually useful to the end consumers. It wasn't bringing something to the market that was a real pain for people. And this is hard to articulate, but like, if you wouldn't use the solution yourself every single day, then who would? Who actually would use that solution? If you wouldn't use it, you have to know somebody who would, who'd pay a lot for it because they're like, man, this is really, really useful for me. And if you can't imagine somebody who says that about your product, then you should probably try and find that person first before you put like a bunch of money into building it. Building stuff properly can be expensive. Actually, it's never been easier to prototype stuff. So build prototypes for sure. Just don't build full-scale, fully fledged products with all the features that you imagined when you haven't validated a singular problem first. I've also seen founders basically try to solve the problem by building extra features. Actually, one of the first companies that I co-founded was an ed tech company. This is before this agency started. I was kind of heading up development of the product, and we built this thing, and we ran this trial with a school, and our usage analytics were basically null. Nobody did anything on the platform. And I was like, guys, we don't have product market fit because we fundamentally didn't solve a problem. This was the first time that I really encountered this lesson. The other co-founders in the company, bear in mind, nobody's getting paid. Like, it was all kind of a little bit part-time-ish. No company's ever gonna work like that. But everybody was like, oh, no, let's just build these extra features. If we make it an all-in-one solution, then it'll get useful. And they were asking me to build, oh, you want video features and chat features and this features. Man, that's the wrong stuff. You're focused on the wrong thing. Like, you fundamentally didn't pinpoint a problem, and people don't need another WhatsApp because WhatsApp already exists. Nobody's gonna use your version of WhatsApp if it does the exact same thing as WhatsApp, because why would I change? Essentially what I'm trying to say is, like, extra features don't necessarily add value. Just making your platform something that they can do everything else already doesn't necessarily add value. Sometimes it removes value because it makes the experience more confusing. You actually have to think there's a single fundamental reason why they're there in the first place, and what is that reason? What is the first problem that it solves? And that's the main thing that you should focus around building before you start adding other features and things like that. That's, I think, something that a lot of founders sometimes conflate as well, is like, when they're building stuff, they think features are value adds, but it depends on what you're actually solving for. I've seen bigger companies try and build stuff too, and actually sometimes make this mistake, but it's easier for bigger companies because bigger companies can test the platform with more users quickly. They have traction, they have context, things like that, and so they can usually do marketing as well as build stuff, and I think that's when it really works. You want to market as much as you build. You want to sell as much as you build. If you build too much without selling, you're going to build something useless. If you sell too much and you never build, well, you're a fraud, you're a scammer. Balance both is just, I think, the one thing that I can say from having learned from a couple clients who unfortunately made some mistakes, and that's how business is. Like, it is what it is, but hopefully that's valuable for anybody who wants to be a founder. Like, just don't forget to sell. If you want to build something, prototype it easily, then hire specialists and build it properly. This works against me because I run a development company, and if more people hire me, obviously that's great, but unfortunately, like, I don't want to watch more founders go through that. I really don't, and I want to try and educate, and just whatever clients that I have in future now, I try and tell them about these past stories where I've seen other clients make those mistakes, and I try and help future clients avoid them, even if it's not necessarily my job or it's totally unrelated to what we do. I think it's useful to observe those mistakes and avoid them. Validate before you build. That's I think the biggest thing. Is just stop building useless products. Useless products cost money, waste time, they're a waste of resources in general. Comment any questions if you have them, and I will reply to as many as possible.